Can you give us, Jamie, just a little bit of the background of how you came to establish Exodus 90 and what the goal is and what you're doing and how long you've been
Yeah.
serving men
Yeah.
and helping them to grow?
So you mentioned to me you're a priest for 17 years, which is,
Yeah.
yeah, I respect that. That's awesome. I've been at this now for 10.
Okay.
Before that, so I grew up in central Indiana. My parents, really my story begins with my parents, and I didn't really realize this fully or fully appreciate it till later on, but my parents got brought back to the faith through the Cursillo movement, the charismatic
Oh
renewal.
yeah.
And it was
My
just
my
so
parents were super involved with Cursillo as well.
really okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, huge impact on our family. And I've experienced this as a kid in a really interesting way where it wasn't just that there were like pictures of Jesus up and around, but I felt like our
Mm.
relationships were different.
Mm.
And, also just the life of my father, the example that he set for us was different after that. And so I remember waking up every morning and seeing my dad just chewing on the word of God every
Mm.
morning. And sometimes he'd notice I was there. Sometimes, he wasn't, but, he's a man who was so obviously in touch with someone invisible. So like as a young kid, like I'm practicing the faith, whatever, but this is like before my real awakening, to the possibility that all this stuff might be real. And it just made a huge impact on me. I just tell you a quick story. We were on vacation together not so long ago, and it was actually the day we were leaving. We were up, too early, in my opinion, to get out of town. And I forgot something at his house that they were renting, and so I'm trying to like break into the house basically to get it. And there my dad is, 20 years later, in like just as I remember as a kid. I mean, he's just a really remarkable man, and without him, I'm not. Obviously I'm not here, but it's also I'm not the Christian that I am. And so I'd go on to seminary at the age of 18. There's an impact of a boys' fraternity, serving fraternity that I was a part of, a kind of a virtue, formation in virtue that was really powerful for me locally. And I'd go on to the seminary, and so it was kind of within this context that Exodus 90 was begun.
Mhm.
And when in time I would discern I had a calling. It just wasn't quite what I had thought. I began working on it basically the day that I left, and it was on the Feast of St. Michael the Archangel, September 29th in 2015. And so really, if I had to like distill the whole thing down, it's, I felt, I don't know what you would say, Father Sam, but I felt so fortunate to go to seminary. I felt so fortunate to be there when I was there. This was like after much of the renewals of, the programs for priestly formation, after all the scandals. And I felt so blessed by it. I remember going home, and sharing about my experiences with my parents. I was in our community. And my mom, she'd often remark like, man, this formation's really such a good thing, but why don't all Catholic men, have an intentional formation
Mm.
like this? And that kind of stuck with me. And so I hope for Exodus to be something like that, trying to create that space of a formation, trying to bring together the dimensions of our humanity,
Mhm.
and grafting them, into onto Christ,
Yeah.
so that we can be effective ambassadors of the gospel for the callings that we all have, in the church and in the world today. So that's what we're up to. And I'd love to say it's like this linear story that was all obvious, but that's just all ridiculous. I mean, for years I really didn't know that it would work out. It wasn't much to show for it, to be honest with you. And it's kind of like planting a tree. I learned recently that many trees don't do anything. And this is reflects my own lack of touch, how out of touch I can be with the earth. Though I have recently planted a garden to try to overcome this. Okay,
Okay.
but it can take years, for trees to do anything. And I kept running into this like 3-year marker. And I think Exodus is kind of like that. The first
Mm.
couple of years, it's just, I remember meeting my now father-in-law, and I was
Mhm.
so embarrassed because I didn't know if I had a job, to be honest with you. And it's like when you try to tell people like, yeah, I'm trying to free God's men. It's just like, what does that mean? Who are
Right,
you?
yeah, yeah.
And it's just, and I like was, and yeah, those are good questions, right? I'd ask the same, and I was, pretty embarrassed at the time. Fortunately for me, I would find out now in-laws are family full of these entrepreneurial kinds of people, and I was like one with them. It was a great fit, but but it took time. All good things, take time, and I just feel really grateful to still be at it, 10 years later. And one of the things that was just like really impressed upon me, both by my father, but also by my time in seminary, is that good men stay. And it's so easy in our time today to run from thing to thing to thing. And even within kind of the apostolate, to just like jump from thing to thing to thing. And I feel grateful that, it's had its different phases, and I'm just trying, the best that I can to kind of grow with it as we seek to improve for the men that we serve.
So awesome. What was the turning point? Right, because you said it went through these phases, right? Like, when were you like, oh, it is a thing,
Yeah, it was really, it's like 2017, 2018 timeframe. And we like grew, we had a couple hundred guys at that point. And we added like 1,500 overnight. And and it was so ridiculous that guys, I'm embarrassed to say this. I didn't even I was like, I'll look at that next week. I didn't even there must be a mistake. It's kind of what I thought.
See.
And I literally went through the weekend and didn't think much about it. I was like, okay, so what's going on? And yeah, basically this was, 90 days to Easter, and I think maybe it was 2017. And this is just, there's a, we didn't come up with the 90 days to Easter thing. We had just started it as a 90-day program, and then that happened to us. And like so many of the things we create, they, probably your show, they take on a life of their own, and
we're still waiting for ours.
That's what kind of happened.
That's it, Jamie. You're our big break.
Yeah. No
pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, that's what kind of happened. So
yeah.
And really it's as simple as it sounds. I mean, it grew because guys had an experience and they invited their friends and men they knew. And to be honest with you, all of my attempts to grow Exodus beyond that have pretty much failed, I would say. And that's how it works.
That's awesome.
Thanks for watching today's video. Let us know what you thought down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.